I've been working on fabricating this exhaust system hanger bracket for a while. This is going to go, it's actually going to be on the mid pipes just behind the differential. But a couple things about it here. When you're going to hang this, you need to pay attention to which way these are going to go in, because they could go that way or they could go this way. Okay. They're going to hang the pipes like so. I should have made that clear first. But depending on which way you put this, this moves this about an inch or so, and it may put it at a bend or at another clamp. So the other thing about these, once you hang this thing onto the tailpipe, like so, this gives you a fair amount of, it takes up maybe about an inch of clearance, and that's if you cut the U-bolt after you've installed it. But what I decided I'm going to do with mine, is mount it this way. Then I can put this through and when I make that adjustment, I can put this as high as I want. I can cut this off behind the nut. And cut this behind the nut. And all I've got hanging down that's going to reduce my ground clearance is this U-bolt, which is 5/16 of an inch versus closer to an inch. Doing it that way does make it a little bit harder to tighten these bolts up on the top, but if you tighten this one pretty tight, and you can reach this one to do your final tightening, because keep in mind, this is only a hanger. You're not depending on it to seal the exhaust, so you don't need to squeeze it tight. You just need it snug enough to hold it. So my mounting bracket for my exhaust system is ready to go in. I've got two brackets here that came with the pipe system, along with these hangers that came with the pipe system, and they'll go in like that. They'll attach to the pipes. And then there's two holes in this bracket that are going to go into the differential mount where the leaf spring mounted, but since I've gone to coil over shocks, I'm not using those holes, so I'm just going to put a bolt and a nut through there, hold it up there. Okay, I think if I can keep my head out of the way, you'll be able to see what's going on here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the mount, make sure I've got it in the right orientation, and this hanger over here is already attached to the tailpipe, so we're going to try to put that in, see if that'll work. And then move this back. It's going to be a little bit kind of tight in there. Hopefully I can get this. I've got one bolt up through the ears on the differential, and I'm putting a nut on the top of it. Hopefully I'll get it on there. Okay, so that's one nut holding it up. Take the other bolt, put it through the other hole in the ear. These are old head bolts I'm using to bolt this to the differential mount, or it's the spring perch on the differential, actually. I'm going to have to somehow get a wrench up in there to hold those nuts, I believe. And that's an 11/16 wrench. The head on the bolts are 5/8. But since I had to manufacture this to my own specs, you of course would have a different setup. Hope I can get this tight enough by hand that when I put a wrench on it, that nut on the other end will not spin. But so far I don't think I'm having success. Maybe on this one. Now what I'll be able to do is to run this bolt up and pull that hanger, pull the tailpipe up using this hanger bolt to where I want it to be, and then tighten the nut that's on the top, and it will be firmly in place. I don't know, if I was designing this, the hanger that it goes into is only about 1 inch wide. And the flat part where this hanger goes into it is pretty close to 2 inches wide. I would make that
smaller if possible, so that whenever you put it in there, it's in there more without as much ability to go forward and back. Although hopefully by the time I get this up, I am completely off the threads on the supporting rod, and it's not as high up as I would like it to be. Got about an inch of room between the strut rod bracket and the pipe. I would like that to be less. I might have to rethink my plan here.
Okay, I think there's a fairly simple solution to this. I think I was planning on putting it in that way. All I have to do is bolt it in this way, and that moves this place where the hanger goes in up about an inch, and I think that's going to be enough to get me where I want to be. I don't know if you can see it from here, but I put the 2 bolts that are going to hold this in from the top down, and I'm going to put the nut on the bottom. You can just barely see it there. Let's move this up just a little bit. So those bolts are hanging down now. And as I said, instead of bolting it this way, I'll bolt it that way. So hopefully I won't be too much in your way here. This is very loose for now. I'm going to see if I can get the... Yep, now I have to lengthen this because the mount is higher. You know what? Trying to do this way is just going to be too much of a pain. I'm going to take it off of the U-bolt, put it through that mount, and then work with it. I'll have to take that U-bolt off as well in order to get that in. Once I've done this, it's going to have another side effect that I don't know, maybe not. I thought it was going to move the mount back further. But now that I look at it again, I don't think that's the case. I do believe that's the wrong nut for that.
That bolt, I picked up the one I took off of that hanger. It's going to be easier to tighten up this way too. I can actually get maybe a wrench on it from this side. Should have cleaned up the threads on that before I put it in. But now, I'll be able to take this off. I might have to take that hanger back off again because the way I want this thing hung on the tailpipe, I want the bracket part as opposed to the U-bolt being on top. And I don't think I can get it on top the way I have it now. Give it a shot, but yeah, that'll go. And then keep in mind this is going to have to be cut, and that was always the plan. My washer. Grab the other one for now until I get this started. Get that on pretty tight because I don't want to have to try to get a wrench over there. So I'm going to tighten that up as tight as I can get it by hand and then use this side to pull it up. Make it snug on the hanger. This is the one thing where, you know, they give you these hangers, they don't tell you where in the system to use them or where on the body or the frame to screw them in. So, makes it a little bit difficult. I wonder if I can get a ratcheting wrench in there because the socket's not going to work unless I cut this first. But okay. I'm going to get a 13/16 for that nut to pull those up. Maybe a 5/8 wrench to hold it on the top end. Sorry, I said 13/16 on that nut. It's actually 11/16. Tough to get a 5/8 inch wrench up in there because 5/8 is a pretty long wrench. There we go, I think that's it. Try to hold that with my left hand while I get the impact wrench on it with my right. That thing is not going anywhere. So, what I've done is I've put the nut as high as I want it to go. I don't want to go any higher than that. Put this through the mount. Again, put the bracket above the pipe. You bolt through the bracket, tighten the inside one that I can't get a wrench on easily, as tight as I can get it by hand. And then that one on, that's the one I will use to tighten, to hold it. And then this one is what I will tighten up on this clamp shaft, or the hanger shaft, to pull it up to the height I want it. Okay, I'm gonna go get myself a ratcheting 9/16, I believe that is, and tighten those guys up. So, just need to snug these up on the clamps on the hangers. Again, doesn't have to be too super terrible tight because all it's doing is holding it up. Has to be tight enough to hold it so it doesn't move. Loosen out a bit and just slide it back just a hair. Again, all that has to be is snug enough to hold it. And now, I'm pretty sure that this one was in the frame. It's gonna be a slow process because it doesn't want to ratchet because the thing has not got any tension on it yet. Ratcheting for a bit. What would be nice for this is one of those through the socket ratchets. Unfortunately, the quickest way of doing this is probably going to be to just do it by hand. And once I get this to the height I want it, in other words, maybe a 1/4 inch clearance between the strut rod bracket and it, what I will do is I will tighten down the top one to lock it and then cut this off. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to cut these things anyways. I'm gonna cut them so I can use a deep socket on them. And that'll make it a little quicker. Because these can't hang down anyway. Okay, a little bit of sparkiness while I cut that. I don't like the way this guard is set up because no matter how I seem to hold it, it seems to want to spit the sparks at me. I'm going to shut the camera off mainly because I want to move it so I don't want to get it damaged. That's the passenger side one. They've both been trimmed off. I'm just gonna tighten this up till I get about a 1/4 inch clearance between the bracket for the strut rod and the exhaust pipe. And now that I've got that, I'm going to bring that nut on the top down and tighten it to pinch that so that neither this nut nor the top one can move. Okay, that won't move. I'm going to just hit this just a little bit. That pipe's not going anywhere. Same operation on the other side. Move this nut up until I get the clearance I want. Tighten the top nut down on it to pinch it. Give it a little bit of a turn with the manual wrench, and then I'll hit that bottom nut with just a tiny bit with the impact wrench. It is set on its lowest setting, so I don't want to break this. Hanger. Okay, and there we have it. We have about a 1/4 inch clearance both sides. They're both mounted to the same thing. The bracket for the strut rods is mounted to the bottom of the differential, and then the hanger for the muffler system is also mounted to the differential, so they won't be banging up against each other because they're solid and they're attached to the frame through the differential. That's what it looks like when it's done. So we have a very secure set of mufflers in the back. Very secure hangers for the mid pipes. The only thing left is to hang the front of the X pipe, and then tighten down all the bolts on all the clamps. Time for the front mount that I made. Those two are going to bolt in between the two pipes, but this is the mount that I made. Got a place for this bolt to come through. And a place to bolt to the transmission mount, which I should have brought a wrench. I came under here totally unequipped. Get back in a minute. So I think I have all the sockets I need to tighten all the bolts on the exhaust system. Went to AutoZone to buy muffler clamps. They didn't have two stainless ones, so I got a stainless one and a regular one. So, here's the sockets I need. And I probably needed a wrench too. I didn't bring the wrench. Needed a 9/16 wrench for the bolt that goes through my mounting bracket. But the two clamps that came with the header, I needed a 1/2 inch socket, and then I have some clamps. The band clamps came from Summit Racing, and I need for those a 9/16, and I believe the ones that came with the Pypes exhaust, those are 5/8. And then I get to the two clamps, the other muffler clamps are 9/16. Then I get to the two clamps I bought them at AutoZone because it's way closer than going to Summit Racing. And those are both 2.5 inch muffler clamps, mind you. And the one that I'm going to put over here, which is the regular duty one, well, it's heavy duty, but it's, you know what, I want to make that so that it gives me the most ground clearance possible. But this one is a 14 millimeter. The stainless steel one is a 15 millimeter. So I've got 5 different sockets that I need to tighten up everything on this exhaust system. Keep in mind these are just to hang it so they don't have to be super tight. And I guess that I didn't want to do new holes in the hangers because just would weaken it. So that little bracket I made is going to be a little offset, but it's under the car, nobody's going to see it. Would have been a problem if I would have tried to make 2 holes in that bracket to mount it, because then it wouldn't have lined up. So that should hold that from going anywhere. That's a 17 for the transmission mount. For the muffler hanger, that's stainless. $14 for the muffler hanger that is not stainless. Those are plenty tight. And now I'm just going to go over all the other clamps and make sure of two things. One, that the bolt, like this one, seems to be sticking down below the level of the pipes, so wrong socket. Imagine that, only 5 to choose from and I picked the wrong one. So I'm going to twist it up a little bit, get it so that it's not the lowest point in the system. And then I'll go around the rest of these and make sure they're tight and up out of the way. Okay, I'm going to shut the video off because it's just more of the same on all the joints on the system. And once I get all those tightened, I'll be exhausted. Poor pun, but it was intended.